certain psychedelic substances by ancient civilizations. So all that aside, here's my experience. This was early in 2018, and I was depressed and looking for answers in my life. So I chose to embark on a psychedelic experience. We'll call this a religious experience, that I was trying to find answers in my life and reduce my suffering, let's say. So there I was. I inhaled DMT, and what I started to witness within moments was a couple things. One, I started hearing a loud pinging or ringing sound inside my head. And this was not the same as tinnitus, which I've experienced years ago from back when I was in the military and loud noises and stuff. Like, I know the difference. This sounded like it was coming inside my head, and it was loud. And then I started seeing the whole room, the walls and the furniture, vibrate. It was like going in and out. It was like whomp, 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 whomp. Crazy. And then the first thing I saw was these 3 or 4 little blobs to my left. They were these oddly shaped round blobs, and they had faces. And I don't know how to describe this other than that I got a bad feeling from them. They had a weird vibe. They didn't look happy. But then what I saw after that was a being, which I interpreted to be feminine, although she didn't have hair or anything, but it just looked feminine. And she had really big eyes, kind of like an alien, but not like an alien, if that makes any sense. And she was made up, she was like geometric in nature, like made of a bunch of lines that were made up of all the colors. And what I saw was coming out of her body was a pyramid from, say, the chest all the way down. And she was going like this nonstop. Just like that. And now, that's it. That was the whole experience. And let me just say a couple things. My first of all, I couldn't have been more surprised to see a pyramid. I know some of you are saying like, oh, this is the ancient history guy, of course he's going to see a pyramid. Like no. Like, guys, I think about all kinds of things throughout the day. And at that point in time in my life, I was focused entirely on spirituality and just self-help, let's say. So I was surprised. And something else is that I then understood what Terence McKenna had famously said when describing his DMT experiences, was that you're witnessing the impossible. And now I knew what he meant, because I never could have imagined that I could have visualized something like that. Like, we all have imaginations. This was different. And I couldn't tell you if what I saw was in my imagination or actually in front of me in some other realm or dimension or something. And I'll get into that later in the video, along with talking about the fact that it made me, what I took away from this experience more than anything wasn't that I saw a pyramid, was that between the sound of my head and the room vibrating and these bizarre color shapes in front of me, it made me question the reality of our existence in terms of frequency. And again, I'll touch on that later in the video. But so getting on to the point. So fast forward, actually this is worth mentioning. The whole experience, by the way, was only 4 minutes. That was shocking as well, because I recorded it, so that's how I know. And I remember that when I kind of came to, it feels like you're kind of waking up, coming out of a dream, and I look at the clock and I'm like, how was this only 4 minutes? You know, I don't know how long I think it was, but like it felt like I woke up from an hour's long nap or something. So that was crazy. But anyway, getting on to the story of nearly 3 years later. I'm in Egypt in November, December, doing a tour with Yosef Awiyan, who is the son of the legendary tribal elder Akim Abdel Awiyan, who was famously had a role in the Pyramid Code, which starred alongside John Anthony West. It's a docuseries, absolutely fascinating. Wonderful man, by the way. And so he had told the stories of the Cometians, which were the people that were said to exist before the Egyptians that we know about. So that's what he would teach on his tours. And he did not believe that the pyramids were built to be tombs, and neither do I. So I asked Yosef, I said, well, what are the pyramids? And he said that his father had told him that they're us. And instantly, I remembered my DMT experience from, again, nearly 3 years earlier, where I saw this pyramid coming out of a body. Just blew my mind. And if you want to hear more details on this, or Joe Rogan's thoughts on my story, go check out that Spotify podcast. And that story was at the end of the podcast, I should say. So all of this is obviously bizarre. And I want to point out a couple things, because I know some people will be like, oh, this guy's talking about his drug use and he's seeing things like, hold on a second. Like, yes, illegal substance, sure, and do not do it. But you should look into the science behind this. Like DMT, which is short for dimethyltryptamine, is found naturally in the human body. It's been proven to be produced in the lungs and the liver, and there's overwhelming evidence that it's produced within the pineal gland in the human brain. And there was an advanced study done on this in the 1990s by Dr. Rick Strassman, DEA-approved study. Fascinating. And there was a book and a documentary on it called The Spirit Molecule. Highly recommend you check it out. But it has been believed for hundreds of years, minimum, that the pineal gland may be the source of where dreams and near-death experiences come from. I mean, that was theorized by Rene Descartes. So you should look into this. This is absolutely fascinating. So how this ties into now the ancient Egyptians? Well, so let's talk about the lotus flower, which, by the way, is the national flower of Egypt. And it happens to contain psychoactive elements. And this flower was said to be used by the Egyptians to connect to the divine, as well as having healing properties to it. And there are countless depictions of the lotus flower carved into stone within Egypt. And the academic explanation is that the lotus flower is symbolism of life, creation, and rebirth. And it's often depicted as being presented to the gods or the pharaohs by high Egyptian priests, representing the gift of sacred knowledge of life. And it's interesting to point out that it is often depicted while holding the Ankh, which is the Egyptian symbol for the key of life. Interesting. But what else do we see here? This is the lotus flower, and it's pretty apparent that it's portraying it being smoked out of a pipe. I mean, notice that the flower is consistently situated right in between the two of them, while holding a pipe that is literally emitting smoke. But now focus your attention on those pyramid-shaped skirts that they're wearing, clearly in the shape of a pyramid. And perhaps one of the more famous examples of this was a statue of the god Anubis that was found in King Tut's tomb within the Valley of the Kings. But here's something that I never noticed until recently. Look more closely and notice at each of the base corners is depicting the lotus flower seemingly shining up and into the body. You can also observe this same depiction on various hieroglyphs as well. So I'm just going to say it. This makes me wonder if what I saw was similar to something that some Egyptians may have seen as well. I mean, I never made this connection until recently, because it wasn't until I noticed that the lotus flower on